Another skill that's important to focus on is your accuracy with your grammar and your verb choices. And with the speaking section of the OET, I'm going to talk about question formation, what that looks like in terms of formality and informality and so forth. Now, it is very important to know the differences between the sections. So for example, with the speaking section, it is okay to be more informal in how you speak. However, in the writing section of the OET, there's a lot of emphasis on formality. So making sure that your letter structure is very formal with the grammar you're using, but also your verb choices. So just note that there are differences across the sections in that regard. But let's talk about grammar and specifically looking at questions. So a couple things with formal questions, and by formal I just mean they have full grammar usage in them. So there's no shortening, contraction, they have the subject, verb, object structure, or reversed if it's a question and so forth. So making sure with formal questions, you can use them, they're good to use. You don't have to make every question formal though. So here are some examples. Classic, do you have this? Do you know this? That's a very common way to ask a formal question there. Another one is, are you having? So the difference being, are you having, that's a progressive tense. That present progressive, the verb to be plus verb ing. So there's a slightly different usage for just present simple versus present progressive. With the are you having, it means this kind of ongoing, currently you're having these symptoms in the moment. Do you have, it could be that you're experiencing these ongoing or just in this present moment right now. So there is a slight difference in meaning there. Usually though you can exchange those and there's not too much difficulty understanding what you mean. It's quite a lot of overlap as well with those two. Another one, so have you had? This is present perfect. So you're thinking in the past up until this present moment. So at some point, have you had symptoms? And usually with the perfect tenses, we use a time phrase. So have you had any pain in the last 3 months? That would be a good present perfect example there. Another way to ask a question, and this is more of an open-ended question as well. So how are you coping, dealing with, how are you managing, for example, this? I'll talk about some verbs that can be inserted here, but usually how are you, and then we have the ing form of the verb there. Informal questions. So don't be afraid to use these. It is okay. And actually, it can sound quite natural in a conversation there. So let's say the patient has told you about their symptoms, but they haven't talked about pain. So you can go and ask, any pain? Any pain? And usually, because it's so short, the intonation's important. So if you're going with a rising intonation, that implies that you're asking a question in English there. How about this one? What about pain? What about pain? What about sleep? What about your sleep? So inserting whatever you want to ask about as basically right after that question phrase there. The last thing is verb choices. So you can use informal verbs, and by informal, usually this is referring to phrasal verbs or less academic language. So unlike with the writing, as I said before, it is okay to use a variety of kind of natural expressions, phrases, and especially phrasal verbs. And we're going to take a look at some examples of phrasal verbs on this next page here.